Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, located about a half an hour north of Oklahoma City, Langston, Oklahoma is home to the state's only historically black college. And it's here on this small campus in the middle of the Oklahoma prairie that a pioneering woman in her own right is beginning her journey back to coaching relevance. Our Courtney Mate has the story of Cheryl Miller and how she's using the lessons from her own life to change the lives of others.
It's a long way from the lights of Los Angeles to the lonely prairie of Langston, Oklahoma. A journey basketball legend Cheryl Miller says she's glad she made.
The 2 years of trying to get back into women's basketball was the best thing that ever happened to me.
A four-time All-American and two-time national champion, Miller led Team USA to an Olympic gold.
Winning an Olympic medal in Los Angeles and having your family watch, that's probably my greatest achievement.
She became a Hall of Famer, transitioning into sports broadcasting.
That's snatching somebody's heart.
Yet despite her list of accomplishments, when she tried to return to coaching, her dreams were shot down.
It was the most humbling, gut-wrenching, confusing, depressing time of my life. And to hear irrelevant, no, to knock on doors that aren't answered, phone calls that aren't returned. In our life, we need to be knocked down a peg. We need to experience what a lot of people feel is their daily life. I'll speak for myself. I got to a point where I felt that I was untouchable, that there was something Teflon about me, and this experience, like I said, was very humbling. It forced me out of my comfort zone.
So she reached out to an old friend, her former athletic director at USC.
From a male role model, my dad's the end-all be-all, and right there is Mike Garrett. Just a man of character, substance, knowledge of just life. And he was my sounding board for 2 years where I'm like, Mike, I can't get hired. I said, I can't even get a sniff. And he's like, just be patient.
And she was, until she picked up the phone and it was Garrett on the line.
So I was at Magic Mountain hanging out with friends, and he said, are you ready to coach? And I said, yeah, I've been telling you that for the last 2 years. And I said, where? He said, here at Langston. I said, great. I said, okay, Langston. I know where OKC is, Thunder. I know where Tulsa is, WNBA, the Shock. He said, and I looked in Langston smack dab in the middle, NAIA. I had no idea what NAIA is. I heard about it, but it was the fact that he was giving me the opportunity, and I jumped at it.
To the one and only Cheryl Miller.
I knew if she got here and she started coaching the way she is, that the young ladies will only grow and get better as basketball players and certainly as young women.
3 seconds! Prior to Miller coming to Langston, the Lady Lions lost 10 games in 2013, but this year qualified for the national tournament. A turnaround, Garrett says, is reflective of Miller's coaching style.
The girls are kind of in awe of her when she first got here. When they start playing and she starts giving them kind of corrective directions, then they realize how much she really knows of the game, and then they also know how much she wants them to improve. She's a consummate coach, and she knows how to touch people and make them grow.
Lessons Miller learned in her own driveway with her little brother, NBA great Reggie Miller.
We're always competitive, and the advantage that Reggie always had was his mouth. I mean, I couldn't out-talk him. I mean, the guy just drove me nuts, so the best way to shut him up, obviously, was to beat him. But, you know, to this day, there's nothing friendly about even playing, you know, a pickup game of horse. You know, it's always competitive. At, you know, 100 years old, we're still trying to beat one another.
I know sometimes you and Reggie would have games on the same night, and your dad would go with you and your mom would go with him.
I always felt that Reggie got the better end of the deal because he had my mom. My mom was a tremendous cheerleader. and she wasn't critical. But my dad, on the other hand, decent cheerleader, very critical. So he was always the one taking me to my games and watching it. There's something about having, whether it's one parent or two parents, supporting you. That's probably what I miss the most now that my mom's not here, is the second or the biggest transition of my life, you know, coming back to women's basketball, coming back to coaching. And wow, I didn't think I was going to get emotional about her not being here. But I know she's here. She's always with me. But yeah, that's the missing part right now in my life, is my mom not being here.
Values instilled in Miller that reflect now her character building coaching style.
Every day you roll out of bed, make a better you, be a better you, and try to impact somebody. And you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but you got to learn from them, and more importantly, you got to admit it. Be woman enough to say, you know what, hey, I messed up. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have done that. Or I overreacted. And that's going to be lasting. That's life lessons. And once the basketball and life are like this, the sky's the limit.
A philosophy Miller says is changing lives, including her own.
Well, Coach Miller seems like she has quite the personality.
She's definitely animated, but don't let that fool you, because she's about the business when it comes to basketball.
But she really acts like she likes her players.
She does, and she even spoke about one of her players, senior Lynette Holmes, and said that she could be one of the best players that she's ever coached. And she's coached at USC with Lisa Leslie and Tina Thompson, and even in the WNBA with Bridget Pettis. So for her to say that Lynette Holmes could be one of the best players that she's ever coached was really impressive to me.
So how did the Lady Lions season, how did it finish up?
Well, they started out undefeated, and then they won their conference tournament and made it to the NAIA Division I National Tournament, and they made it to the Sweet 16 in that, and then they finished up with a record of 28-4. And I just really think that their success this season reflects her coaching style.
Which her coaching style kind of extends to even when you do an interview with her, right?
Right. She even coached me a little bit. She helped me out with my jumper, so that was helpful.
All right. Thank you so much, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Now, if you'd like to see Cheryl Miller's basketball tips to the best 5'6" shooting guard on our set today, just head over to okhorizon.com to see our Courtney May get schooled by the very best.